Hello everybody, hope you're all doing well. My name is Steven and this is the Storytime channel. First things first, a big congratulations to last week's giveaway winner, Tiffany Snyder. And as always, I do a gift card giveaway every single week, so if you're interested, I'll tell you how to enter later on in the video. But today we have some malicious compliance stories, and our first story of the day is by Not a Bad Guy 3, got told to freak off by my assignment group, and that's just what I did. I do a computer science degree at university. We had a group work project which is set out in 2 stages. Part A involved making an application and writing a report about it, 50-50 split. Part B, we got feedback from Part A and had to improve upon it. In total, it was 100% of a module. It is also important to note that there was a group contribution report, GCR, where each student puts in how much they think each student has done. I was in a randomly selected group with 4 others. We each picked a part of the work that we wanted to do. I was apparently the group's most confident coder, so I assigned myself about half of the code, and finish up my work in about the first 3 weeks and work on other projects I have for other modules. Then soon after I finished my work, the others asked me if I can do their parts of the code too. I initially protest as I have my other coursework due, but eventually I say fine, but so long as it is noted in the GCR. They all agree. I sweat it out over the next 3 weeks or so alongside my other coursework. I contacted my module organizer explaining that I had done half the work, and they suggested if people weren't pulling their weight to leave the group, taking my code with me and do the report. That would mean I would need to work flat out to produce the report and probably would mess it up. I didn't want that. The deadline was in about a week, and honestly, I can't be asked. Then I got asked to do some report too because they didn't understand how the code worked. By this point, I felt pretty used by them. Didn't really mind so long as I got the marks. All in all, I worked out that I had done the workload of 3 people. There was talk amongst the others of all writing that we each contributed 20% of the workload to make us look better as a team. I flatly refused. They exploded, calling me with every name under the sun, swearing at me, telling me to freak off. I sent off my GCR with 60 for me and 10 each for the rest, and thought that was that. My module organizer then emailed me asking if I had any proof of this, as they all put me at 0% and themselves at 25%. I'd worked my butt off on this project, putting in 150 plus hours on the code and another 50 plus on the diagrams and report, all while attending lectures 20 hours a week, over 7 weeks, which if you do the math, that averages at an extra 4 hours a day. On top of all my other assignments and commitments, etc. There was no way I was letting it slide. I emailed him back, linking him to the GitHub I used to share the code with the team. GitHub is a source control that shows who made the changes to the code, and showed him that all the commits, version of the code, were done by me, proving that I did all of it. And thankfully, we did the whole report on Google Drive so I could also see the history on that document, and sent him screenshots of all the alterations made by me, proving that I wrote around 20% of the report also. He added it all up and made a special exception for my group, saying he would give me most credit for the work. I think I ended up with a 65 and they all got 11 for the whole coursework part A. They would need 69% to even pass the module. So it turned out I messed up a bit on the code, only getting about 50% of the marks with like a massive issue in it. Dumb me. For anyone interested, I didn't make an MVC structure correctly, but my report sections were near perfect. Spelling mistakes, a common thing I do, and formatting, etc. There were a few glaring mistakes from the report that they had written, but other than that, not too bad. When they found out their marks, they started calling me up and emailing me and messaging me almost for about 3 hours. I was happily out of the time and didn't have my phone with me, so I didn't respond. My module organizer sent an email explaining that they had lied and he had proof about it, so they corrected the marks according. When I got back to my phone, I screenshot all the messages they had sent and recorded all the voicemails, including the ones they had sent previously, including multiple occasions where everyone in the group told me to freak off. And freak off I did. I sent all these voicemails and screenshots to my module organizer requesting that I leave my group, and understand that it is more work for me, but I'd rather not deal with that. He agreed and also escalated the messages to someone higher up. At this point, I quit the group and decided to work on part B by myself, taking all of my code with me, removing their access to all of it. I of course asked my module organizer first, and they said it was fine as it was my work, and if I was no longer in their group, the others couldn't submit it. I fixed the error in the code in about 2 weeks, then did the whole report from scratch almost and added a load about the fix, taking me about 7 weeks. I then get messages from the group to please come back, we really need you kind of stuff on the last few days of the assignment. They even offered to pay me. I screenshot it and send it to the module organizer just to let him know what is happening and then just ignore them. I ended up submitting 2 weeks early for the deadline and got 100% on the whole section 2, which is basically unheard of at university, especially by yourself for group work. Later that day, I get an email from a plagiarism and collusion officer. Not someone you ever want to get an email from. Basically says I'm summoned to a hearing as an external body looked at by both my group, me, myself, and I, and my old group's coursework and thought it was very similar. I get the whole project that my group handed in and my own back as evidence so I can look and prepare my answer to their questions. I email my module organizer, ask if he supports me in this because basically they can punish all of you or one group, never nobody. He says yes, he supports me in this. Perfect. I prepare for this meeting by going through the hundreds of commits I have made while they had access to find the one that is the most similar to it. I find a perfect match. 0 differences, not even a single character, through the thousands of lines of code. So I turn up to this meeting, there is the VP of computing there, guy who could basically do whatever the heck he wants to us. My old group, when asked to present their answer as to why this happened, go on about how they did all of it by themselves, blah blah blah. You get the point. This goes on for about 10 minutes. Then I am asked to present my argument. I ask if I can share my screen. The VP says, yeah, okay, puzzled. So I share it. Show all the screenshots I took as some of the people in the meeting weren't aware that we knew each other, including them basically begging for me to come back, offering money to. And as if this wasn't enough to convince them, I then showed me downloading a fresh version of what they submitted and a fresh version of one of my commits on the GitHub and running it through a trusted comparison software. I narrated this to explain what I was doing, just to be clear. Took a while, but came up as I knew it would. 0 differences. Everyone was stunned. One of the group members uttered, "But," and I just laughed, and was quickly asked to hang up as I was no longer involved. Turned out they had cloned one of my commits and still had a copy on their laptop when I blocked their access. They had not been able to fix it at all, so they just submitted it and hoped for the best. One of my friends, who was friends with one from my old group, asked what grade they got, and they said that they failed the whole module, as they got a 0 for the second section, giving them just 5.5% overall for the module. You need 40 to pass, and would have to retake it over the summer, costing them and everyone in my old group their placement year jobs. After all, who wants someone who failed a module so badly and who was intellectually dishonest working for them? This meant that they all lost out on being paid around $20,000 each for the year's work, which goes a long way for a uni student, while I happily get mine. If you were in OP's situation, how much would they have to pay you for you to go back to them and do the work for them? Let me know in the comments down below. For me, I'm not sure what the figure would be, but I would definitely need to get paid up front first. Our next story is by Index, when shipping costs more than the item itself. In 2019, my wife and I welcomed our first child into the world, and as a baby shower gift, my father, who lives on the other side of the country, wanted to buy us a crib. Obviously, the easiest way to do this was to order from Amazon, so that is what he did. Total came out to something like $650 plus free shipping. Now, my wife and I were the ones to select which crib we wanted, and my father had no issue with the price. My dad orders it from his account, shipped it to my address. So the crib shows up, they drop it at the base of our driveway, and we have about 15 steps up to our front door. That box is heavy, probably handy of 500 pounds, and it's just me and my pregnant wife, so me. But we get it in and we spend a day building it and go on with our lives. But as ads do what ads do, my phone was bombarded with ads for cribs, including the one my father just bought us less than 2 weeks ago. And surprise, surprise, it's gone on sale for $430. So I contact Amazon, let them know what's going on and ask if they have a 30-day price guarantee. I figured there was no reason to tell my dad he could have saved $220 if he wasn't able to get the money back. Now, because it was over $200, they couldn't just do a refund, but said that we could return the crib and order a new one. Unfortunately, we've already built the crib and can't return it. So they told us, order a new one. When that crib comes in, return the old one, get the refund. I made sure to ask about return shipping, and they said that would be covered as the item has free shipping, and I saved the transcript of our conversation. So that's what we start to do. I contact my dad, he puts a new order in, and we wait for the box to arrive. Similar situation. Heavy box left at the edge of my driveway. But this time, the weather was pretty crappy and the box got ruined. I took photos of it sitting at the curb and then moved it inside. I let my dad know and he contacts Amazon and then gets an email providing the return address and instructions on how to return, including a blank "affix postage here" spot on the label. Back to talking to Amazon support and they're very sorry and look into it. Apparently, shipping on this crib is like $350. I'm sitting there with 2 cribs and proof that Amazon said they'll recover the return shipping, so like $1,050 in shipping, all for what amounts to a $430 crib. So they told us to keep it and refunded the original purchase of $650. My sister lived a few hours from me, and her husband were looking at starting to try for kids. So she got herself a crib as a baby shower gift from my dad too. Well, that was certainly a lot more wonkier than desired, but it did work out and hey, you got a free crib out of it. Also, that's kind of a handy trick. If they wouldn't do a price guarantee, just buy another one at that price and return the old one, which is basically the new one still packaged. This next story is by KMC2301. Want me to call the cops? Alrighty then. So a bit of backstory on yours truly. I've been working bar security, aka bouncer, at the same bar for about 3 years. If you ever want to know what it's like to be a bouncer, think daycare but at night, and instead of small children, it's adults who revert to children when intoxicated, or even when not intoxicated. Anywho, this night is much like any other night. There's a popular local band playing, so we've got a decent crowd going. The team is keeping their eyes open for anyone passed out, being belligerent, drugs, the works. I'm standing by the door to the bar area of the building. The way this place works is it's basically cut in half, with one half being a pool hall and the other being a bar/entertainment area separated by a wall with a door on either end. I stand by this door a lot because I can easily keep track of both rooms at the same time without needing to really walk all around the place. So there's a gentleman sitting near the door where I'm at, and there's a couple sitting at the bar across the way. The female is well known for acting out when she's drunk. From what we can see on the cameras inside, she walks on over to the gentleman by the door and starts trying to flirt with him. This guy has come into the bar for years and never has he raised a hand to anyone for any reason. He's a professionally trained boxer, doesn't drink, and doesn't generally close out the bars. He rejects her advances and she becomes noticeably upset. She proceeds to run over to her man and tell him that this guy has disrespected her and called her names. The gentleman ushers her man over and kindly asks him to make this woman leave him alone. Before the conversation starts though, the husband grabs this guy by the collar and starts driving him towards the wall. Well, chaos ensues as they didn't realize that he came with his 20 friends. He throws a couple of jabs at the husband and the woman because she decided she wanted in this brawl. Welp, the dude punches her so hard, he literally folds her bottom row of teeth back into her mouth. This all happens in the span of about 10 seconds, so the security team jumps in and gets everyone separated. The husband and wife get taken outside, but we haven't called the cops because that's generally a last resort. So we're outside, this lady is bleeding from her mouth and the husband is visibly angry. She keeps asking me to call the cops, but I keep telling her that's a bad idea considering the husband put his hands on the guy first, but she's not having it. So I call the police. I can't describe how difficult it was to not laugh in this lady's face as she witnessed the cops put her husband in handcuffs and not the guy who punched her. She said something that I'll never forget, and I wish I had it on recording. "This is why we don't call the freaking cops." I very nonchalantly reminded her that it was her idea to call the police in the first place. Didn't see them again until about a year later. She had to get her whole bottom row of front teeth pretty much fixed, and still hasn't changed in the slightest. What a night. I think the moral of the story is, don't instigate a bar fight. And secondly, if you're not capable to be in a bar fight, don't insert yourself into the confrontation. Our next story is by au-smurf, dressed as a character from a book. For context, I'm in Australia, and most schools here have uniforms. A friend of ours' daughter had an event at school where they were to come dressed as a character from a book instead of wearing a uniform today. She came out of her room, dressed in her normal out-school clothes, holding a homemade book and proudly stated, "I found a loophole. I've written a book about myself, and I'm going as myself." For those times where you don't want to dress up in a costume to go to school, I definitely respect this. I just hope the administration at school did too. So quickly now, I just want to explain how to enter the giveaway. The way it works is I take every video that was uploaded in a given week, find one random comment that was relevant to the stories in that video, and I give them an Amazon gift card. It's that simple. So all you want to do to have the best chances to win is to leave a comment relevant to the video in some form on every video this week. That's all you have to do, and best of luck. And also, if you could like the videos too, that would help more than you could possibly imagine. And our final story of the day is by urfavgalpal. That time my parents made me read a manners book, and I complied by reading at the table. So when I was a kid, my parents made me read a manners book, which really annoyed me because I didn't want to, and I was the only kid that had to. They told me I had to follow what the book said, even though they had never read it themselves. Well, at one point, the book suggested children should bring a book or other distraction to the table to keep them quiet during meals. Well, okay, you want me to read it? I'll read it when we're at the table. My parents tried to make me stop reading while we were eating, but I pointed out that they were the ones that told me to listen to what the book said, and the book told me to read at the table. And of course, I told my two younger siblings, who started bringing their Game Boys to the table. Okay, let me be honest, I think bringing the Game Boys to the table is a stretch because, let's be real, a Game Boy isn't a book. But overall, that's a pretty effective way of throwing it back in their face that, why do you have to read this manners book and obey it like it's some Bible or something? But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So if you enjoyed the stories today, let me know which one was your personal favorite and why in the comments down below. And if you haven't yet, please like this video and subscribe and turn notifications on because anything you do helps this channel grow so much more. So no matter what you do, whether it was just watching the video, liking, subscribing, thank you all so very much for supporting me right here on the Storytime channel. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you all next time right here.